I don't know where you live. I know that you've got challenges and you're constantly probably wondering, what am I doing in this state? Is it time to just get a bunker? Or, can we fight these things? How can we win? Oh, woe is us. The stakes are completely against us. There's nothing more we can do. And if you've got that wrong attitude, these guys will help change it once and for all, because I don't care how bad your state is, these guys have it worse. I mean, ultimately, these guys are from the bluest of the blue states. And we are talking about, first of all, down here at the far end, Brad Wyatt from Worcester, Massachusetts. A computer engineer by day, political, hard-fighting guy. I was going to use a couple of other words, but I decided to say we'll stay on the high end there. But just a phenomenal political activist. And one of the things that you may not realize is, or never really thought of, if you're in one of those blue states, guess who your leaders probably are at the RNC? And all the problems that we were having in Tampa were often created by people that were from establishment Republican guys from blue states. So Brad is going to be talking about how you can take over your state GOP and get Liberty guys in there, even if you can't get anybody voted, that's worth a rip statewide, you can still take over the Republican Party and make a difference. Next is Ted Patterson from Rising Sun, Maryland, who is, in an area, a state where, my God, they even tax the rain. It's sunshine next. Who knew? You're living in that type of environment. How in the world can you make a difference? Well, they've done it by organizing locally and taking over areas where they can. And unlike most places around here, their taxes are going down where he lives. And he'll explain about how that works. And last but not least, Eric Boye from Boye, Delaware, who, in a state that is absolutely, way to the left of everything that I don't know how you guys stand living in these places, to tell you the truth. I'm from Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the only state in the country where you do not have to see a government official your entire life. And I think you guys, what's amazing is they have not succumbed to Stockholm Syndrome and started identifying with their captors. They're out there fighting against it every single day. And Eric had just led a very successful fight to stop one of the most draconian gun bills of all time, and you're going to hear about that. So we're going to start going down the line, and we're going to start with Brad.
Thanks for having me, Kirk. And I have a presentation that should pop up in a second, hopefully from the guy in the back. But the People's Republic of Massachusetts is certainly a fun place to attack bad politicians. And I do want to say that it's not just the RNC. We actually were able to elect a state representative in our state. So it's not just at the RNC, it's locally we can make a difference. I just wanted to show some pictures. The first is the bottom picture. That's my building. And that's actually not, that's a real picture of a Ron Paul sign that was hung from my building. It's right next to the highway, and it's sort of an inspirational point for a lot of us. It's not up now, the weather, but occasionally we'll put it out, and it's a lot of fun. And then a couple pictures in the top. We got a Tea Party meeting on the left, again, collecting lists of names, a huge Tea Party in Boston in the middle, and then an Audit the Fed rally. And it's really about, it's about collecting names. So the Massachusetts Liberty Movement. In 2008, we had some delegates and some alternates go down, and we had no idea what we were doing. Basically, we just made a bunch of phone calls. We were able to get some people elected. And because I had a building that was very central to Massachusetts, a lot of people met there, made signs. We had a war room. We planned, or some people would say plotted or conspired, to try to elect good Republicans and change things. That's my little daughter on the bottom painting that pig. She really enjoys art. So Massachusetts, it's a very, very blue state. To give you a little background how blue it is, we've only had 3 out of the last 102 statewide races won by a Republican. There was only 30 state reps out of 160, and only 3 out of 40 state senators are Republican. So we really can't go on the offensive that much. But there are a lot of defensive fights. I'd like to play the video, One Party Coal, because we want to have fun. Like Ron Paul said, we're doing this, we want to have fun. So can you cue the video for One Party Coal? Oh, wrong video. Hopefully it works. There. That's my last video. Skip the video. We'll move on to the next. Okay, so in Massachusetts, we've got an uphill battle. And so we're fighting the Democrats, and we don't have many bullets in our gun up on the State House. So that's bad. What's even worse is the Republicans that we have up there aren't really trying to help us. They're more interested in maintaining their own power. And the story I use is the scorpion and the frog. There was a scorpion and a frog, and they wanted to cross the river. And the scorpion said to the frog, "Let me get on your back so we can cross the river." And the frog says, "No, no, no, I'm not going to do that because you're going to sting me and we'll both drown and die." And the scorpion says, "Well, if I do that, we'll both die, so I would never do that." So the frog relents, and the frog says, "Sure, get on my back, we'll cross the river." Halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog, and they're about to die. The frog says, "Why did you do that? You stung me. We're going to die." And the scorpion goes, "That's my nature." And the people that run the Republican Party in our state, that is their nature. They care more about maintaining power than they do about beating Democrats. And they burned the grassroots continuously, over and over. And eventually this scorched earth policy is going to get back to them, and we're going to start winning some battles, and we actually have with the new National Committee woman. So, before we say that Massachusetts, all of Republicans are bad and everything else, like I know a lot of the large L libertarians like to say, you know who you are. We have friends out there. They've been struggling with the same battles that we've been struggling. So one of the things is you want to control the environment. Well, first you got to figure out the environment, who your friends and allies are. And you have to look at the roll call votes like they do in South Carolina. My favorite was in 2010. The budget went from $30 billion to $32 billion. Only one state rep voted against it. Not every Republican that should have been there on the steps of the speaker saying, $2 billion in tax increases with all this waste, what are you people doing? Only one was willing to stand up. And he got rare public praise from me, because it's more fun to attack. And then we started informing the Tea Party and the Liberty groups about what these state reps are doing up there. They're going along to get along to keep their jobs. And today, we've gone from 1 to 2 voting against the budget, to 4 going against the budget, to 8 to 13, and now this year, all 30 Republicans voted against the budget. That's huge. That means we're working. Now, the interesting thing is they voted this year because the redistricting was over, but before the redistricting, they were all very, very friendly with the Democrats because they wanted to make sure that things got gerrymandered, they'd be in a safe Republican district with no credible Democrat challengers. So that's one of the battles that we have to fight there. We found some allies, and one of the big allies is a group called Mass Fiscal Alliance, a lot of Tea Party people in there, and now they have a roll call vote scorecard. So it's very easy for us to push out when people make bad votes. And the key vote I always use is the health care price control. The health care price control, you guys are going to get Obamacare, and you're going to get all this insurance. Well, those insurance companies are going to raise their prices. And then when you can't afford to pay for it, your state's going to come in and say, we're going to put caps on what the hospitals can charge. It's horrible. And do you know what happens next? The bond ratings for those hospitals go down, and the doctors start leaving. So just be aware that that's coming your way. Massachusetts, it's already there. So now let's get to the delegates.
Gotta go.
Gotta go? Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Thanks. Ted, you're up.
Okay, as Kirk said, my name's Ted Patterson. I'm the Maryland State Coordinator for the Campaign for Liberty. It's an honor to be here today. Just want to hit a few points about organizing in a blue state that I hope that if you are a blue stater in here, you can take back with you and keep your head held high. If you're not a blue stater, I think it's still very relevant. Number one, in a blue state, you have to speak victory. When you go to a Republican club meeting, you are going to just constantly listen to, well, we can't win. This is just a terrible state. We're never going to have success. They tell each other that all the time. They believe it. It's their mantra, okay? They're not competing. They're not trying, but just it's in their minds. They believe they can't win. They're never going to win. It's not going to happen. They live in Maryland. Okay, so you have to break that mentality, and you have to understand that although you live in an extremely liberal state, it is very much, it's very likely to be the case that confrontational politics in its truest form has never, ever been implemented in your state. And once you see confrontational politics in our model start to be implemented, you'll be amazed at what can happen, and you'll be amazed that this major blue state you thought you lived in maybe isn't that blue after all. Number two, let's get into talking about what you can do, and I like to talk about baseball. I think politics is like baseball. You are not going to make it to the World Series in any state, especially a blue state, by skipping the minor leagues and not developing your talent, okay? So in blue states, we have to start on the local level. And local level, I don't mean state senator or state delegate. I mean, town council, okay, county commissioner, your local central committee in your county. Often these races are decided by a few thousand votes. I had a friend who was on the town council in his local town, and he was elected with 146 votes, and he won by 1 vote. Okay? So these, at the local level, we can make gains, we can build local liberty infrastructure, and we can start to build a base in our state. And in Maryland, we did not go to the belly of the beast in Montgomery County, to Maryland, the most liberal county in the country probably, to start our liberty organization. We've worked in Western Maryland and the Eastern Shore and Lower Shore and rural areas and more conservative areas, because that's where we can get the quickest bang for our buck. That's where we can grow the movement the quickest and make the most gains. So we've been starting out there and building local organization out there over the years, and now we're starting to break into more liberal areas to start to develop organization. But you have to take that long-term approach in a blue state, and you have to understand that it makes no sense, and it's morally wrong to ask your volunteers and your people to work on some statewide race when you've not built any infrastructure and when you're not prepared for it. Okay, that's morally wrong because you're wasting their time, you're wasting their talent, you're wasting their treasure. Okay, so that's looking at minor leagues. Okay, and you really need to keep that mentality. I'm going to give you 2 things that, if you're in a blue state or not, that are crucially important to your success. 2 things. Number 1 is a candidate survey, and number 2 is a Liberty vote listing. Okay, 2 things. And essentially what you're doing with these 2 tools at the local level, you could have 5 liberal Democrats, you're in the most liberal town ever, it's unbelievable. But if you use these 2 tools, you can get to work immediately. You are essentially creating the bullet points that you're going to put on your literature to cause political pain and to hold politicians accountable in your area. Pick maybe 5 liberty issues in your area, in your town or your county, okay? And you send those liberty issues in to a candidate in the form of a candidate survey, okay? And it's beautiful because, number 1, most of them will not have the courage to fill the survey out. And that's wonderful because then you can go out there and you can say, candidate X refused to take a tax pledge. Candidate Y refused to commit to cut the budget by only 5%, okay? Sometimes you'll get a really special politician, just a one-of-a-kind, who will reply to your survey, and they will proceed to hang themselves in the survey through adding little tidbits of information and telling you why you asked the question wrong and you really should be asking this. And we had people actually cross out words in our question and change it and then answer yes. It's just, it's beautiful. So you'll have that. And then you may have some people fill out your candidate survey who you'll find, oh, wow, okay, they're making some public pledges here. They seem like they're sort of on our team a little bit with their answers. You post their answers, people see what they said, and then now you have them on the record. Now when they get into local office, on the county level, wherever, now they are publicly on the record so that when these votes come up, you can hold them accountable. Okay? Okay, now let's go to when they're in office. When they're in office, you track the important votes, budget votes, tax votes, whatever, and you keep a running listing of Liberty votes. You can put it on your website from time to time, email it out to your local group, okay? And over time, you'll be able to say things like, County Commissioner Patterson he's only scoring a 63% for Liberty. And, County Commissioner X is only scoring 23% Liberty. And you can report that out to your voters and to your members, okay? But very, very quickly in your local area, when you start to hold politicians to stances and force them to go on the record, you will find that even in the bluest areas, you will immediately start to change the environment. People will start to look at you to figure out what issues you're going to be activating on, because they will not want to feel the political pain, okay? And I promise you, some of you may be going to the one-day training tomorrow, some of you may not. I promise you, if you go to that training and you implement that training, you will win, even in a blue state.
Hi, my name is Eric Boye. I'm the state, hi, how you doing? I'm the state coordinator in the first state of Delaware, and we beat Barack Obama, Joe Biden, his son, baby Beau Biden, and their buddy Jack Markell in one of the most draconian pieces of gun legislation I've ever heard of. And I'm very proud of our folks in Delaware. These guys talking, when you live in a blue state, it's real easy to get depressed, especially when you're around a lot of folks who call themselves conservatives and they're giving up. I think in a blue state, you got a few options. You can buy a bunch of gold guns and bullets, hunker down in your house, and watch the world fall apart around you. You can take those gold gun and bullets and move away, run off and be a deserter. Or you can ask yourself, what kind of person am I? What kind of person do I want to be? And what am I willing to sacrifice in order to change the state I live in and fight these statists right here where I live? So in July of 2012, I became state coordinator, and we had a small group coming out of the Ron Paul 2012 convention. A bunch of folks wanted to start a group. And we spent the last half of the year last year trying to piece together, how the organization would look across the state. Our state is about the size of most counties in this country, and it's about 2.5 hours tall and about 30 minutes wide. And so we decided that we were going to have 3 groups in Newcastle County. We're going to have 1 group in Kent County, and we're going to start off with one group down in Sussex. We had about 5 to 6 people showing up at every group meeting right off the bat. We had to get all of it together, meet, find what restaurant back room we were going to meet in, and find what senior center, community room we were going to meet in, and all that. Well, anyway, at the start of the legislative season, our legislature starts from January, it goes from January to June. We had this huge gunfight coming down because of the Newtown, Connecticut tragedy. And we knew that this was a fight we couldn't pass up, and we were a darn small group. But we said we couldn't pass this up. It's way too important. They're going to take everyone's guns away, and they're going to start locking people up, for mental illness, what they call mental illness, classifying people as mental illness. And that was House Bill 88. Well, the first gun measure came through, and that was for background checks, which is de facto gun registration. And the Tea Party groups in the state mobilized, and the NRA mobilized, and the Delaware State Sportsmen Association, which is the arm of the NRA in our state, mobilized, right? And then they got down to the vote, and we're fighting no compromise all the way, us guys. And they got down to the vote, and the NRA and those Tea Party groups settled for 10 amendments that made the bill better. And we fought that, and then they started fighting us, saying, what are you doing calling out the legislators for accepting these amendments? We got to accept the best compromise we can get, otherwise we'll lose everything. I said, baloney. So we stood up to them, and of course, the bill passed by a fairly large margin. The next bill comes up, Senate Bill 16, and that was basically making victims into criminals. Somebody steals your gun, you know, and you can't account for it, and you don't tell the cops within 48 hours, they're going to lock you up. So we're fighting it, and we're fighting it, no compromise. And here's the Tea Party groups, right, and the NRA, right, and they're all quote-unquote fighting it, and then they accept a couple of amendments. But we had, by going with the no compromise route on the first bill, we had grown our ranks. People had taken notice of us. So when the second bill passed, even though it did pass with a couple of amendments that those other groups had accepted, it was a smaller margin that it passed by. So then here comes House Bill 88. And now we're bigger, and now we're stronger, and now we got a bigger voice. And now the other guys are demoralized. They've lost 2 fights. Everybody's deserting them. They're like, you're not doing us any good. These bills are still going past, you know? And we fought it, and guess what? We won. And that was after it had passed 40-1 in the House, after the former president of the NRA and the president of the Delaware State Sportsmen's Association in our state had sold everybody out, you know, and had made a deal. He was also the chairman of the Republican Party. We got him kicked out. While we were fighting that fight, we even got a Liberty candidate elected as the vice chair of the GOP. I tell you what, it's like Ted said and it's like Brad said. Most of the people in this country, even in a blue state, the liberty message, the philosophy, their belief in the American traditions, it's alive and well. It's just nobody's fighting for it. If you stand up, if you put your neck out there, if you enjoy your time sitting on the seat today, but get up and go fight after this, go talk to Deb Wells or Dave Pridgeon and Kirk and get involved, it can happen. It can happen, and there's a lot of hope to be had. So I thank you very much today, and I hope we all have inspiring stories that make our country better in the long run. So, thanks.
We're going to have a couple minutes for questions here. We're doing great on time. Brad, if you want to finish up, I'll give you 2 minutes to finish up the delegate story.
The last video.
Okay.
Okay. Can we get that last video? Okay. I thought we had practiced before, but it just didn't happen to work out. So we won all these delegates. We had 1,000 people come and show up at these caucuses, and we beat the establishment. And we elected all these Liberty delegates. And then they weren't real happy with it, and so they kicked us out. They tried this affirmation pledge. They cheat. Don't be surprised. The establishment will cheat. Thankfully, to the trainings we had, Kirk, he's trained me quite a bit. They'll ignore you, they'll lie to you, they'll threaten you, and then you win. Well, in this case, we won because they looked terrible doing it. So, can we play that last video? Yeah, this is it. We have a bunch of talented people in Massachusetts, and they created this video, and I really like it.
There are rumors that some delegates from Massachusetts are going to cause problems at the convention.
People are saying that I will break the rules.
That I will be disrespectful.
That I want to embarrass the party.
Well, I'm here to tell you that this is false.
The primary is over and the voters have chosen Mitt Romney.
But the voters have also chosen me to represent them at the convention.
I took a pledge to follow the will of the voters.
And that is what I intend to do.
I oppose any legal action to unbind the delegates.
I oppose any legal action to unbind delegates.
I oppose any and all legal action to unbind delegates.
That would undermine the will of the voters of Massachusetts
and undermine my pledge.
I am a Republican.
I am a Republican.
I may look different.
Talk different.
Dress differently.
But I care about the Republican Party.
The party of Reagan.
The party of Paul.
The party of Romney.
Ron Paul and his message of liberty inspired me to get involved.
Inspired me to get involved.
Inspired me to get involved.
But he also inspired me to be civil.
And to follow the rules.
I'm going to the convention to vote for Romney
and promote the message of liberty.
Let's work together.
Let's work together.
Let's work together to defeat Obama in November.
And please, don't believe the false rumors you read on the internet.
At the end of the day, there's a lot of Republicans that have been beaten down for years, and we continue to lose. And they're not part of the establishment. They're regular Joes, and they just don't know better, that they keep electing the wrong leadership in the GOP. And by putting that video out there, we're able to show them that we are real people, we do care, and we want to try to grow the party so that we can start winning some battles in Massachusetts. Thank you, Kirk.
I think there are microphones out there, so last few minutes, if there are questions about how to implement these things, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll recognize you. But don't lose sight of the fact that no matter where you are, no matter what obstacles you are facing, there are great opportunities to make a difference wherever you happen to be. And these guys have proven it. I mean, you were in the worst possible spots of all time, and you're still making a big difference. That is great stuff. Okay. You have a question? You got a mic? Oh, okay. That's okay. You can project it. There we go.
Hello? Thank you very much for all the fights you guys are doing in blue states. A question for all three, I guess. When you're dealing with the legislators in your states, do you have more headaches dealing with the Republicans or with the Democrats?
Microphone's there, guys. I think just speak into it.
Hello?
Yep.
Well, you know the answer to that, Patrick, and that is Republicans by far. Often it's always been the case in my state that you have to clean house within the party and on your side, allegedly your side, before you go to the Democrat side, and these Republicans can't stand that. But the way I always phrase it to them is, look, I'm just trying to help you. I'm just trying to unify the party behind a good message and help us to really provide a contrast to the liberals and the Democrats. And if we don't do that, we're not making a case to the voters. Of course, they don't like me saying that, but yeah, absolutely. You have to work first in the Republican Party and create a party worth fighting for and worth recruiting people for, and then you can definitely move on to Democrats.
Yeah, in my view, a traitor is far worse than the known enemy. And you need to get rid of the people that are going to stab you in the back. That second bill that passed, it passed in the Senate 11-10, and there was a Republican that stabbed us in the back. It wouldn't have passed without her, And yeah, dealing with backstabbing Republicans is much more of a headache than it should be. And they need to be the first to be replaced, because then you got a solid base that'll ground you, and then you can start, knocking on the other guys. So that's how that ought to work.
It goes back to what we learned in training. They will not respect you until they fear you, and what they really fear is numbers. And those 1,000-something people that showed up at those caucuses, the state reps that lost their ability to be delegates were petrified. And I got calls from about a half dozen driving home that day going, Brad, I just want to let you know I had nothing to do with that. I love you guys. You're the best. And it was almost like, don't tase me, bro. Don't primary, bro. So I think we get them in line by showing we have numbers, and discipline does begin at home.
Yep. And Brad, you got to keep in mind that Brad not only organized, got all the people there, and then had the victory ripped from them and stolen, but they never slunk away. They fought tooth and nail all the way to the convention, holding them accountable and creating pain, which is resulting in the environment where they can actually create real change.
Yeah, if we had given up, whether they had ignored us or laughed at us or threatened us, they would continue to do that and just think that we would just give up and go away. So we had to continually double down our pressure and double down our pressure and never give up till we got what we wanted.
Yep. Lois?
You guys are really inspirational, and I'm really happy that you're here and talking to us today. And my question, I don't know, this might be too complicated for this forum, but I understand on defensive battles of no compromise strategy, but what if you're on the offense? Because we've had 2 battles in Pennsylvania, legislative battles in the past 2 years, which were offensive battles, which we lost, and they were, we had a school voucher bill, and we've had liquor privatization. And the bills they were trying to pass were not, maybe perfect, but, and we've had internal, disagreements with Tea Party people and different free market people of where you would to go with these bills, but do you take a no compromise approach on an offensive battle, or do you settle for something that's less than perfect, or it seems like it's a little more complicated.
No compromise. And I'll tell you why. It'd be no compromise even if you thought it would pass, but especially in my state where we know that a lot of things are already hitting an uphill battle, you want a clean bill so that they don't, water it down and then pass it, and then they have political cover. This is about getting them on the record during the legislative season and then holding them accountable in the electoral season. How many people think resolutions are a great idea? Okay, thank you, good. Resolutions are meaningless, and we have yahoos in our state, Republicans, who are passing Second Amendment preservation resolutions, which mean nothing and do nothing to protect your Second Amendment, but they will pass them and they will get right under that and use it for political cover in the electoral season. So no compromise, make it as tough for them as possible. They love inertia. We need to force action. 24/7, they have to take action votes.
And also, it'll help your recruitment. You never have to compromise your principles in order to regain your freedoms. You need to stick by your principles to show other people that you're serious so that they will rally around you later.
Absolutely.
Hi, and thank you for all your hard work. We're also from Pennsylvania, and we work very hard to get Toomey and Meehan and Gerlach, and Joe Pitts has let us down, and we worked hard to get some of these people in, and now we need to work hard to get them out. And we need people that, right now, we're at a loss as to find people who, will run against them. And on a state level, we did have a conservative run against our Senator Pileggi. But our state seems to be owned by the unions, whether you're Republican or Democrat, and we're just having a real hard time of it. So we definitely need your help. Thank you.
Appreciate it, ma'am. Our time, our little red light went off, and I know that we have to go. But going back to that question before, which was dealing with the specific legislation, do you compromise or not? If you stick around later on this afternoon, I'm doing a segment on passing legislation with teeth, and I will be explaining in more depth about how to actually get what bills to push, why you want to push them, and why you want ones that actually make a difference and not some goofy resolution. Thank you all very much for being here, and congratulations to these guys for doing great stuff in tough states.